So our first performers are Bruce and Gail Whistance. They were retired computer scientists who were enjoying an active retirement, volunteering for local charitable groups, performing in a string band, and working on conservation projects. Everything changed 3 years ago when Bruce was diagnosed with advanced carcinoma of the pancreas and given 6 months to live. Employing a combination of acceptance and optimism, Gail and Bruce together navigate the medical maze to remarkable success. So give it up.
Well, Gail and I are honored to be part of yet another extraordinary Rosendale event. We had performed in an early Rosendale Pickle Festival, several Rosendale Street Festivals, but it never occurred to us that we would someday be part of a Rosendale Cancer Festival. So here we are.
Here we are.
So when I first heard of the concept of this show, my reaction was, there ain't nothing funny about cancer. But thinking about it, life is humorous and laughter is great elixir. So with that in mind, we want to share both the dire and the lighthearted episodes of our experience with the greatest, utmost reverence and respect for those people who have been touched by cancer, the victims, the care providers, and the families.
And before we dive into Bruce's cancer saga, I want to make a small complaint, and that is nobody ever told us about the most terrifying side effect of successful cancer treatment. Do you want to know what it is?
Aging.
All right. You know, cancer tried its best to cure Bruce of getting older, but it didn't happen. So here we are. And let me take you back 3 years when our story started. I rushed Bruce up to the ER at Albany Med with severe abdominal pain. We thought it was a recurrence of something he'd had in the past, but by the next day, we had our diagnosis. It was advanced pancreatic cancer, which just turned our lives upside down in an instant. And they were saying 6 months to live, maybe a few more with treatment. Here's the names of a couple oncologists you can check with. Bye. So we came back home, realized we had to put together our own care plan, be our own advocate. So I got on the computer and called up doctors' offices, joined some support groups, and we got him an appointment at Sloan Kettering. That's where we ended up, Memorial Sloan Kettering in Westchester. And that's where we ended up getting his treatment. He, of course, being Bruce, chose the most aggressive cancer treatment, the chemo that was offered. And of course, that made him sicker at first, not better. And it was just a really dire situation. So we thought, you know, we really maybe should get hospice involved sooner rather than later. And one night when he was feeling especially horrible and I was exhausted, I think it was midnight, we called the 24-hour line, you know, at hospice and begged for help. And by the next morning, amazingly, the hospice nurse showed up at the door. Hospice vans were pulling into the driveway.
They arrived faster than Amazon Prime deliveries.
It was it was incredible, and it's true. And they brought in the oxygen bottles, they slapped a no smoking sign on the door, and then they brought in the nice little tidy package of end-of-life medications.
The nuclear football,
Yeah, that's what he called it. And they took that right over to the refrigerator and put it in there because that's where the hospice nurse can find it when the time comes. So every time we would go to the refrigerator for a snack, there it was, the nuclear football.
So my family doctor was very supportive and helpful through this whole episode. He had just sold me his motorcycle, and then he got me into hospice.
Great doctor. Yeah.
He got me a lifetime handicap parking pass and a medical marijuana prescription. But he advised me not to use them all at the same time. It's true.
true. And that parking pass, he figured, well, lifetime pass. It's like, okay, it's not gonna be in effect that long. And then when we asked the doctors, well, he was feeling terrible. Especially with pancreatic cancer, you don't have an appetite, you can't hold things down, you lose weight. What should he be eating? What should his diet be? What should he eat? What should he not eat? And the answer was, let him eat anything he wants to eat.
I was very happy to hear that.
Yeah, as long as he gets calories and protein, whatever he's able to eat.
So it was very successful. I ate what I wanted, and now I can eat a pizza pie like a hot hors d'oeuvre.
It's true. He's got a good appetite.
So there were many visits from old friends, coworkers, classmates when they found out that I was in hospice. And it was quite comforting to share the old stories and reminisce. And for the first time, there were moments when I forgot I was dying. And the pain was something that was out of my mind for a while, and I always felt better after the visits. And then it was one time a caterer's van showed up in the driveway with a delivery of a couple restaurant-sized pans of lasagna, a gift from my old high school girlfriend.
It's not the one that you took to the senior prom, is it?
It is.
Oh, man.
It is.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah. So
I saw them.
I received a lot of emails with support, and one email had an attachment of a Dylan Thomas poem that I had read many times in my life, but it was never as poignant or as much of an impact as to read that poem with death in my sights. And I want to read a verse from that. It was so important to me. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And here I am still in the light. So when I look back at all of these visits, all these warm visits from friends, I have the feeling that I must have felt just like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn observing their own funeral from the choir loft in the Adventures of Tom Sawyer.
So we were faced with a shortened lifespan, and we had to decide, well, how do we best spend the few months that we've got left together? And everyone says, get your affairs in order. And so we did that. We saw the lawyer and got the will updated, whatever. And we decided that the best thing to do is just spend as much time as we could together. So we have our almost daily date night. And we go walking in our woods together and just try to be together. And we called our two sons back from California to pay a visit to, and what might be the last time they see their father.
So my twin sons told me when they were visiting that they had been reading some of the memoirs I had written about some near-death experiences and some traumatic things in my life.
He's on his ninth life.
Yeah, for some
sure.
reason these things happen to me.
Yeah.
And they pointed out there were a couple important events that really needed to be captured for posterity. So I used the time that I had that was productive enough that I could actually create something and wrote some of these memoirs. They were subsequently published, and I've learned that they've been referred to as a scholarly reference for the historical record on some events. So apparently I'm that old now. So I realized that I was going to leave some problems for Gail. I have a habit of collecting things. I had a large collection of stamps from when I was a kid.
Huge, yeah.
Inherited that from my father, I guess. I had a large collection of LP records.
Large, he says.
40,000.
It's like, that's large.
And another room full of 20,000 78 RPM records I had inherited from my father that were still there, and then almost 10,000 45s. I was afraid that Gail wouldn't know what to do with all these. Some of them are just junk, and she would probably wonder, where are those records that they say if you have some of these you can retire? And so I also had a large collection of Lionel trades. So I sent off the stamps to stamp auction. I sold the records to some record dealers, and sent off the trains to auction. And I was sitting in the successful elimination of all that stuff in all the empty rooms, and I said to Gail, what happens if I survive?
Okay.
I'll be a philatelist with no stamps, a discophile with no records, and a train nut with no choo-choos.
I told Bruce, that's a good problem to have.
So it was a fun problem.
Let's have that
to solve.
problem.
I had this empty canvas now to work with.
Well, the footprint I have in the house is like this, and his footprint.
So I went back to the auction house that sold my trains and bought a carload of trains. And,
It's
and
true.
I created a autobiographical diorama train layout with buildings that represented all the places where I had lived, going to school, all places I worked, the hospitals that saved my life, including Memorial Sloan Kettering and Albany Medical Center. And if you look carefully in one of the buildings that's a service station, you can see a figurine of myself repairing the brakes on a 1960 Ford Falcon. So I had fun.
And if you come by our house, you can still see this Christmas layout. The temporary layout is still there, and you'd be able to see it. But obviously the terminal diagnosis is a devastating piece of news for anybody and for the people around him. And I as caregiver and wife, was affected deeply also. And I have an eye disease that has sort of an uncertain prognosis, and Bruce had promised to be my eyes, if it ever came to that if I needed him to do that. And so now what's going to happen with that? And we have big house and grounds. How am I going to take care of all that by myself?
So I remembered that promise I made to her, and it really hit me hard when I realized, I didn't think I would be here. But that was a big incentive to continue to rage, to
Right.
not to miss the light. So I realized I was leaving another problem for Gail. I'd lived in this house for 50 years, put through major additions, a lot of improvements, and there are things that it would probably be hard to maintain. So I put together a big, thick binder of charts and diagrams and certificates of compliance for the building inspector, everything that she would need.
It's got checklists.
And labeled all the pipes and wires and conduits, and as it turned out, I was the survivor that used it already to repair some things around the house.
So we had this dire diagnosis. How is it that Bruce is still here? And turns out about halfway through his chemo treatments, he got his genetic testing results back. And it turns out he's a very rare genetic type. I knew he was rare, but this special genetic type that qualified him for a maintenance drug. And so instantly his prognosis was a little brighter, because that's not offered to most people that have his type of cancer. And so he was feeling better. Even the chemo itself was making him feel better, took the pain away, and he wasn't even on the maintenance yet. And hospice noticed this too, he's getting better, not worse. And boy, this maintenance medication is really expensive too. And so he was basically one of the very few people that was kicked out of hospice. So we were in
my
it 6
hospice
months
nurse
and then out.
My hospice nurse arrived for one last visit to discharge me, and he shared with me the information that he had had 500 hospice patients in his career and only ever discharged 3 alive, and I was to be the third. And it had been a while since he had discharged the second, and he forgot how to do it. So he got on the phone.
Hey, Doc, we got a live one here.
His bosses, hey,
what do I do?
What do I do with this guy? He's alive.
That was funny. So today we're here 3 years from his original diagnosis, and he is free of active disease. The last several scans have been clear, and we've stopped asking what his prognosis is because nobody knows. And so we've just learned to live each day one at a time and make the best out of each day that we can. So, the doctors, they don't talk about cure. They won't mention cure. They don't even mention remission. There's, just they don't want to promise too much.
So the next time I go to the cancer center, I'm going to ask them, where do I apply for remission?
Right. So he's raged against cancer, and but at the same time, it was always kindness toward the people around him, and he always hung on to a thread of hope, even where there didn't seem like there was much. He got kept busy with his projects, and I think he's quite an example. And it made it easier for me as a caregiver to take care of him because he always held on to hope. And right.
So during the time that I was improving, it occurred to me that there were many points of positivity that seemed to contribute to my improvement. There was a plethora of points of positivity.
Plethora. There's a
Some
long
of the
list.
literary points that didn't make it were patient portals.
And passwords.
Passwords.
Oh my God.
But we want to
passwords.
share with you the positive points in
Okay.
our plethora of positivity.
Okay. Here we go.
Partner,
Prayer.
pharma,
People.
pastries,
Purpose.
pot,
Projects.
publishing,
Psychology.
pets,
Poetry.
parties,
Parenting.
planning,
Pond.
pride,
Pastries.
progress,
Progeny.
patience,
Philosophy.
probabilities,
Presence.
priorities.
Pastries.
So one thing's certain, I wouldn't be here without the love and support of Gail, bringing me back from the brink.
And after looking death in the eye and being given a second chance, really, we really work hard at trying to get the most out of every day. And we didn't used to say it much, but now every night before we go to sleep, we turn to each other and say,
I love you.
I'm going to cry. Thank you. Thank you.